Sky Squad, we are back in the building, baby, and we got to talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 14, episode number 8, Healthy Glows and Low Blows. Okay, low blows, as in Sheree telling or talking about Drew looking like a busted can of biscuits. Now, shout out to Felicia Taylor Scott, okay, for taking us back to when Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Jackie was going at it, seasons upon seasons ago. And Jackie made reference to Dr. Heavenly looking like a busted can of biscuits. Okay. So this was a recycled read, but it was a read and a drag nonetheless. Okay. Shout out to you, Felicia Taylor Scott, for just bringing us back. We love a good callback to something that we've heard before. Okay. But the busted can of biscuits, I mean, here's the thing. It won't even like Drew was doing nothing to Sheree. It won't like she took Tyrone from her or nothing like that for her to warrant that level of aggressive shade. But here we are nonetheless, okay? Shout out to you, Angela, for becoming a member. You guys can become a member for the good $4.99 per month. It does go to the continued support of this channel, and we appreciate you all the way, baby. Thank you, and welcome to the family, baby. Welcome to the family. Now, speaking of Drew, well, actually, we ain't even gonna do that. We ain't gonna get into that just yet. We gotta rate the episode on a scale of 1 to 10, okay? Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I need for you guys in the chatterization. First of all, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? Happy Monday to you. Happy Monday to you. Now, let me know, A, what you would rate this episode, and B, where you watching from. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm actually going to give this episode, I'm going to give it the whole 10, okay? And the reason why I'm going to give it the whole 10 is because last night was filled with explosions, okay? Last night, and I told y'all, sometimes I don't always look for explosive moments. Sometimes I'm looking for nuance and story and that sort of thing. But last night, to me, it gave me everything that I felt like I needed in a housewife episode, and everybody worked last night. Sonya came across a lot more authentic last night because she wasn't trying to stir up some crazy beef with Drew. You know what I'm saying? I felt like seeing that moment with her and her husband and her tearing up. Finally, we get into some moments that mean something. And to me, that is Sonya at her best. I think I was listening to the Carlos King podcast when he talked about, Drew being at her best when she left the script in her pocketbook. Okay. And I feel like the same can be said for Sonya when ain't nothing going on but the truth. Okay. That's when usually the ladies are at their best. Okay. Yeah, I mean, ain't nothing wrong with changing your score, Darnell. You allowed to change your mind. Okay, that's what I preach around here. Change your mind as often as you want to. Heck, change your mind today, tomorrow, and yesterday, whatever you choose to do. But I definitely give this episode a 10. We got a real nice little interesting argument betwixt Kenya and Candy. We got an emotional moment from Candy when she was confronted by Sheree and MARLO. We got an altercation with MARLO rolling up on Kenya and Kenya having to be pulled out of the event. We got editors throwing shade in the event. Baby, let me tell y'all something. When the editors tossed this up on the screen, first of all, it took me a second to notice that they did it. And again, I feel like these are the Potomac editors, okay? These are the Potomac editors throwing these moments in there and giving us these fun little surprise elements that make the show even funnier. If you didn't notice this last night, let me tell you something. I cackled last night. The editors really are the MVP of this season, okay? Definitely the MVP of the season, all right? Now, let's go ahead and dive on into this thing because, I ain't going to hold y'all all day. We got a lot to cover, so let's dive right on in, all right? Now, we start off at Drew being at a building labeled fat loss camp, okay? But she is there with the Drop It with Drew personal trainer. Now, I got so much to say, but I'm going to save it. But anyway, Drew chats with Jackie, her business partner, okay, quote, unquote, business partner, okay? And they're talking about doing a party to celebrate some of Drop It with Drew's biggest losers, okay? Now, Sonya is sitting in the kitchen talking to her sister Shari or Sheree, Shireen, Shar, whoever. Anyway, talking about having she need to have a tough conversation with the Ross, okay? Now, the Ross is her husband, and the Ross is traveling a lot, and she doesn't feel like he was there for her during the, when she had Duce, who is their little baby, okay? And she doesn't want to feel like that no more, and she don't really want no more kids. The woman is trying to do her thing, and she not trying to be slowed down by having all these kids. Now, she already feel like having the mama, the sister, the butler, a nanny, and everybody else living at the house. It ain't enough for her, okay? She needs more help. And the man is gone, and he not providing her with the help that she needs to maintain. But what she plans to do is she gonna cook him a nice little meal, but I don't know how that's gonna work because she can't cook. And then she gonna tell him, then she gonna run, okay? Somebody said, why did I leave Sonya off of my profile introduction? I don't know what that meant. If you're talking about the picture on the screen, it was only because I felt like I put people on the screen that I mentioned in the title, right? And then these are the people that I felt like had the most explosive and interesting aspects of the episode. So it wasn't no shade to Miss Sonya. Her moments were more emotional this episode, so I went with the people that made more of a splash. That was all it was to it. No shade to Miss Sonya. Okay. Now, anyway, Sheree and MARLO meets up with at the Sweat Glows place, a place where you go and it's like an infrared sauna. And they wants to confront Candy today, but Candy is not about to get none of her weave napped up or nothing, or kinked up or nothing like that by being in the sauna, because Candy got things to do, okay? She not trying to have the bundles shrink up or nothing like that, because she got to go some places. She not even going to get in a bathing suit and take no photos. Nope, not today. You won't do it to me. So anyway, they talk a little bit to catch up about her role and, doing her sexual scenes and things like that. And then they just dive right into, Sheree goes into the past friendship that she's had with Candy when they was the Smalls, and how Sheree misses that, and how she's going through something and she expects for Candy to reach out. So Candy's like, well, girl, I was going to wait for you to share the info with me before I said something to you. And then I end up telling on Kenya, and then we got a whole nother problem, like the whole situation that you had with Drew. So then she says, so MARLO jumps in and says, they want Candy to call them more. And Candy is like, wait a second now. Hold on. Y'all want me to call y'all, but ain't none of y'all calling me. Okay? Ain't none of y'all calling me. Right. JMW says the producers ain't giving Candy no notes this season. She's going to be caught off guard all season long. And when we talk about people getting the notes, that means the people that get the notes are the people that's stirring up the juice in the scene. The person that's not stirring up the juice, that's reacting, they didn't get no notes, okay? So Candy walking in blind, she didn't get the notes, okay? And I got that from Dr. Heavenly, okay? Anyway, so MARLO starts going on about her childhood, and Candy's like, what they got to do with anything? And MARLO saying, well, you was raised differently, so you should know better about how to be a good friend. Then MARLO sits on the floor and opens. First of all, the fact that this conversation was happening through a glass door was already kind of crazy to me. But then MARLO has to open the door, sit down in the midst of it, and then tell Candy with all the sincerity that she could possibly muster, okay, that, she's going through some stuff with her sister. And then she gets, emotional and teary and things like that. And then Candy, kind of slows down for a second, and she mentions her own family telling her that they need more time too. So it ain't just these ladies that ain't getting the time. Kandi is booked and busy. So anyway, MARLO says that it sounds like if everybody is telling her the same thing, then it might be something that she needs to work on. I was like, ooh. And so then Kandi gets emotional and frustrated. Now, and she just lets it all out, and she goes off about being really frustrated with all of them coming at her all the time. Now, what Kandi said on her speak on it, because I just watched it, she said that that argument went on for much longer than what they actually showed, and they didn't show why she got so frustrated. And it was because she brought up the fact that, MARLO was saying, and this is what they cut out, MARLO was saying that, she don't do nothing to help other people in their businesses. And Kandi was like, no, hold on, girl. I got you a whole reality TV show that was greenlit, that was set to film the next week, that you allegedly effed up, okay? You were the problem. And then she said in her speak on it that MARLO said, well, I didn't want to be on TV no way. Now say, what now? You don't want to be on TV? Now that's a shock. But anyway, again, that's all according to Kandi and her speak on it. I suggest you watch on it. So I'm going to have to put all commentary is alleged, okay? So then Kandi gets emotional and frustrated, and then MARLO gives up and gives her a hug. And but see, Kandi don't know what they've been saying about her. So she allows them to hug on her and love on her. And in her confessional, SHEREE says, well, I didn't expect Kandi to throw a tantrum. And I was like, SHEREE. I mean, listen, the woman was just in tears. Like, and the problem is, again, Kandi is not getting the notes. So she don't know what's going down in scenes that she's not in, okay? So anyway, we head back to Sonya's house. I hope y'all don't mind if I give you the quick rundown of the Sonya scene. Mostly because, I mean, it was emotional, but it also frustrated me. Sonya cooks her man dinner. Ross has been out of town in the Austin. She tells him basically that she does not want to have another child, and she asks him if he's going to resent her for it later. And he says that he might resent her for it if they're not able to have another child. Now, my thing about this is this, and I don't like these types of situations because, sir, if you feel like and she told him, she said, listen, I felt like the last child we had, I felt like you wasn't there. So now you're really not here. You wasn't even here most of this month. So for me, you telling me that you want another child for what? So you can look at them on FaceTime? That's how I was feeling, because I'm like, what are you going to do with the child? You're never there, based on what she's telling us. And I always think it's crazy that some of these guys on these shows have this mentality that this woman is supposed to walk around for 9 months carrying his child, and then, she might not be able to do all the things that she want to do. And then to follow that up, she gonna have to be the one to spend all the time with the kid at home because you running off working here, there, and everywhere. That, first of all, is not, and listen, I don't want to come down on just Ross because this is a lot of people on these shows. But what I'm saying is, because I like him. But what I'm also saying is this: if your woman is telling you that she feel like you're not there for the child, then I'm gonna need for you to compromise if you want this child. You're gonna have to leave that business in Austin or hire some people out so that they can work on that business while you here helping me raise this child in the way that I need you to be here to raise this child, because otherwise it ain't happening. And so I don't want to talk to you about it until you change your schedule. When you change your schedule, then make an appointment with me and we can talk about it. How about that? Okay. Meanwhile, SHEREE, yeah, she's, and second of all, the other thing that I had to think about in this scene was I really wish that Sonya would give Ross the same energy that she be giving to Drew, okay? Because you got a whole lot to say about this girl that's barely done anything to you. But you got a whole husband who you are claiming is not there for you in your time of need and want another child and expects you to deliver another child while he still continues to work and frustrates the heck out of you. You need to take that anger and aggression that you're taking out on Drew. You need to take it out on your man. How about that? Okay. Meanwhile, SHEREE is on the phone with her business manager, talking yet again about She by SHEREE and going over fabrics and manufacture and all kinds of other things like that. Now, I think they are planting the seeds for us to understand that She by SHEREE is coming soon, sometime, September, summer, spring, whenever. Okay, they flashed it on the screen. Anyway, over at the late archive, MARLO is with her nephews. They helping her clean. This scene is basically her telling us that since she had the conversation with their mama about doing the inpatient therapy and so she can get out sooner, they frustrated and they've been acting out, and she done called the sister or whatever and trying to get the sister to come visit and talk talk to the mama and try to get her to do the right thing or whatever. Brand new to Mass says this camp does work. Jackie I is PR, probably the one who recruited Drew for this. I think the camp works. I mean, but I think the problem is that the ladies feel like Drew been lying to them about how this all came to be. But we're going to talk about that in a second. Okay. Now, Kandi meets up with Kenya and Monyetta, okay, at the candle making spot. I kind of wish, I mean, they did give Monyetta a bit of an introduction. So we know that she's an author, and we know that she just recently got married. We know that she used to be with Neo. Okay, there you go. Anyway, they recap, Candy's Kandi Cares event, and then Kenya lets Kandi and Monyetta know that MARLO was complaining about Kandi donating the used clothes to her charity when her charity don't get no used clothes. They only take new clothes for the girls. Okay. So Kandi reveals that MARLO and SHEREE confronted her about not being a good friend, and she feels like MARLO is starting a hate campaign against them. So Kenya asks if they got the Drop It With Drew event invitation, and then Kenya asks Monyetta, okay, so somehow they get on the vibrating bloomers, okay? And so Kandi asked Monyetta how she would feel about having, wearing some vibrating bloomers, on the trip, okay? And so anyway, Kenya complains about other husbands being able to make her punani buzz and the naked people coming up to her home in her neighborhood, bringing invitations while baby Brooklyn was at home. And Kenya says that she's going to send a naked clown to send some invitations to Kandi while Blaze is at home. And Kandi says, well, bring them on over to the house then, because I know what to do with them, okay? I know what to do with the naked clown. And I'll put baby Blaze away, okay? So this is when we get this hilarious moment right here as they were going through the candle making steps. I was cracking up, baby. I was cracking up. I love this whole argument right here because they really get into it. Kandi argues that just last year, Kenya didn't have a problem talking about how she would, if she could have a night with some of the women's, that she would choose Kandi as one of the women's to have a night with, and the husbands was there at that point. So Kandi is like, well, listen, girl, you pick and choose when you want to be a freaky deaky like me. You know what I'm saying? And right now you acting like, brand new or whatever. But to Kenya's point, I can understand to a certain degree her not wanting to have, Ralph or Ross buzzing her vibrating bloomers and making her Badissi go buzz or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, they continue on, and Kenya argues that, Kandi can't have yes people around her all the time or whatever. And then they both acknowledge that they can have disagreements and still remain friends. So then Kandi lets Kenya smell her candle, and Kenya is like, oh, this candle smell good. And then she says, she either tell her what's the name of it, and Kandi says, good. That's called Kandi's Badissi. You finally smelt it. Oh, Lord. It's the day of the Drop It With Drew event, and we finally about to get some answers, okay? So now, the signage is outside. Now, I want to let y'all know, just 3 days ago, the signage outside of the place said Fat Loss Camp. The signage today says drop it with Drew. Okay. Now, I mean, the branding looked nice, and I didn't really mind the fact that, clearly this is some other gym-like facility, and Drew is hosting her event here. So I didn't necessarily think it was that bad that she was having the event at the fat loss place. That's because that was what it was called. I think what the problem is with Drew is that it all is feeling like it all feels like a farce. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the biggest issue.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
So I think that's what everybody's issue with her is that it's just like compounding on top of, layer on top of layer on top of layer of deceit to a certain degree. JMW says Drew never stated she started her business. She said she was the face of it, episode 1 or 2, but I do think Drew started the meal plan for the business. Well, here's the thing. I have to disagree with that because the way Drew talked, and they even showed a flashback, was that she said that we have been doing this for years. So there is a bit of misrepresentation in how she is presenting the business, although the business itself does feel legitimate to me. So I think it's more about how Drew has presented this to the ladies as if this was something that she started, as if this was something that then she partnered with someone with to help her facilitate her vision, when in fact, this was actually Jackie's vision. Jackie wanted to integrate into the Atlanta market and felt like Drew and her could partner together with Drew as the face of it, okay? Now, I feel like for the ladies, they feel like Drew has been making it seem like she started the business. Now, we may not have gotten all of those scenes, but based on what each one of these ladies is saying, that is their interpretation of it, okay? Right. In the New York trip, she said they have been doing this for a long time, and they even flashed back to her saying it in this episode. So anyway, Candy, Todd, Monyetta, and Monyetta's husband arrives, and everybody got to go weigh in, okay? And as they weigh in, the people are calling out their weights. Candy, you weigh 166, okay? Marlo, you weigh 188. And I'm like, that's one thing I don't feel like you should be doing. Don't be calling out the people's weights when they step on the scale. Because, that's a personal thing. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have minded. But, I understand for something I learned. What? One of the things I learned growing up in the South, you learn that you never ask a woman her age. So with that being said, I also would know not anything dealing with numbers and women. I try not to get into that. You know what I'm saying? Just being, again, from the South, okay? So I ain't going to ask you your age. I ain't going to ask you your weight, okay? None of my business, all right? None of my business, all right? Meanwhile, Sonya is shocked that she got herself an invite, and she arrives with Marlo and Sheree. Marlo arrives and ignores Candy, which Candy notices, but what everybody does notice is Sheree's booty, okay? And Sheree lets them all know that she is wearing She by Sheree stirrups, okay? She got her water bottle and she got her She by Sheree yoga mat, all coming to shebysheree.com, okay? And then the producer let us know that it might be spring, it might be summer, it might be September, but it's coming, okay? It's coming. So Sonya pulls Ralph to the side, of all people, okay? Sonya pulls Ralph to the side because she says that, she talks about Ralph and Ross being such good friends. Note, she did not say friendly because clearly Ralph and Ross actually have a real friendship. Now, she said that she and Drew were just friendly. So I don't understand why she feels so comfortable going to Drew's husband to ask him for advice about marriage. When you done seen the mess that they got going on, why would you ask Ralph for any advice or insight about your man? That's the last person I would think that you would be asking about marital advice. And that's no shade to Ralph. I am sure he is great at a lot of things. But the way they make it seem on this show is like he is not great at the marriage. And that's all I'm saying. Basically, listen, and Ralph, I don't mean no harm to you, man, but I'm just saying, based on how you have been presented on this show, I don't know that I would be coming to you for the marital advice, okay? Anyway, what he tells her is this, okay? You ain't that, he was like basically this, we got 3 kids and, you know, y'all only got the one. And, you know, we are really busy people. And then Sonya kind of shades him and says, well, y'all act like y'all busy. But see, I don't think Ralph noticed that shade. And he says that you can't use the kids as an excuse to say that you're busy or something like that. Basically, he's trying to convince her to do whatever Ross wants her to do. Cheryl Berry says Sonya needs to save her coins and get her surrogate to have the next baby. I mean, that could be an option. Okay. That could be an option. But at the end of the day, it ain't going to really solve the problem in that once the baby's born, that man is still going to be traveling and she's still going to be at home taking care of the baby. Unless the surrogate is then going to double as a nanny and take care of the baby as well. Okay. Nia. Oh my God, Nia, you know what? Get out of here. Nia says she'll give Sonya's husband a baby. I got to go. Anyway, as Marlo and Sheree get their weight announced to everybody all over the building, they approach, you know, and Candy calls Marlo out for not speaking. And then they, you know, she asked them about what all Marlo had to say about her at the girls' brunch because Kenya let her know that she was the subject of conversation. So Marlo then says, well, we all talked about it. Sheree agrees. And ironically, so does Drew. And then they, for some reason, get to asking, well, where is Kenya? Where is Kenya? As if she's going to validate this. So Candy says, well, let's not take away from Drew's event. We could talk about this later. So anyway, Drew gets the party started, celebrating one of their biggest losers for dropping with Drew, the first lady who steps up, she lost 100 pounds, okay? So the program works, or something like that, right? So in the middle of all this, as they're about to start working out, Todd gets a phone call. Here's what's going on. Leandra, what are y'all doing? Anyway, I cannot take y'all today. Meanwhile, Todd gets a call. Somebody then jumped over the fence, ran through the river and through the woods, and then sat on Candy's doorstep. Now, apparently, this is allegedly somebody that is claimed to be Beyonce's cousin, and this person said that Candy told him to stop by. Do you really expect somebody to believe that Candy told you to jump the fence and jump actually 2, 3, 4 fences to get to her property? And second of all, how did he jump all these fences carrying these bags? Meanwhile, where was security? And why even have a gate if you ain't got no security? Like, I'm gonna need y'all to, you might want to move, okay? Because if this man was able to find out your address, he was able to hop over the gates, run through the river and through the woods and get to your house. Where is security? There needs to be security somewhere, okay? Everybody comes outside because they nosy, and then they end up going back inside, and the workouts start to proceed. Everybody working out except Marlo because she's like, I don't work out, I get lipo. Ain't that what Drew did? They are not letting up on Drew and her body, okay? Now, whether that's fair or not, I don't know, but they're not letting up on it at all. And Sheree goes all in. And she says and I'm quote, between Drew's horrible mommy makeover and the way she's doing these moves, I can see why she looks like a busted can of biscuits. Now, I said, Sheree, that won't even call for. Like, that was a read that you didn't even have to deliver, okay? You could have joked about her, how she was doing the moves. But then you talk about the woman's mommy makeover being horrible, and then you talk about how she looks like a busted can of biscuits. Now that is something right there, because I have seen what a busted can of biscuits looks like, and it ain't pretty. Okay, so to call this woman that and to say her body looks like a busted can of biscuits, I just felt like it was rude, okay? It was beyond rude and extreme because Drew had not thrown any level of shade her way at that point. Meanwhile, Kenya finally arrives and she's looking for the biscuits, okay? She wants something to eat. And we learned that she had to she was late because she had to go to Brooklyn's open house for her school or something like that, or other. I don't know. And Sonya and Marlo end up talking about how advanced the class is and how Drew could barely keep up with the workouts. So again, Kenya heads right for the food, and then Sonya got questions for Jackie. Now Jackie is the workout person. She's the person that's really behind Drop It with Drew. So Sonya says, okay, she asked her about, the program. So apparently there are a lot of locations in Chicago. They didn't know the Atlanta market. And that's when Sonya realizes that Jackie is the one that's been in business for 5 years and not Drew, as was stated that Drew had, remember in the flashback, Drew stated that they had been, doing this for years. And what she meant by they, she really meant Jackie. And so Sonya realized that Drew was just the face. So is it technically a lie? I don't really know. But it's definitely a little bit of a misrepresentation of the business. Anyway, the program was previously called the 21-Day Program. And I got to be honest with you. I prefer Drop It with Drew. It's just branding-wise, it just makes more sense. The 21-Day Program sounds like, girl, did you even think that wasn't creative at all. I could have came up. You could have went into, they got these little business name creation tools that you can use on the internet. And you could have came up with something a little bit better than that. So I at least like the name Drop It with Drew better, because to me, I feel like that tells you, it gives me, it's got a nice little ring to it. 21-Day Program just says, for what? 21 days? I could be trying to quit drinking in 21 days. I could be trying to start any kind of new habit in 21 days. You got to tell me what the 21 days means, okay? Autumn says, someone asked Sheree what she does for a living. She always talking about people who are employed, and that irks my spirits. Thank you for that super chat, boo. So Kenya asked, wait. So before Drew actually lost a pound, y'all started calling it Drop It with Drew? And that's a legitimate question. And then Drew was like, yeah, because she believed in me or whatever. And so Kenya is like, I'm talking to Jackie and not you. And that's when she realizes that Drew doesn't have a lot to do with the business. Drew says, well, now that you all have questioned me about my business, there's plenty of businesses that we've been waiting on for years. She by Sheree. Okay. And Sheree's like, girl, you're just the face of this. Okay. So Monyetta then gets the party started because remember, Candy leaves by bringing up that she wants to speak up for Candy. So she want to know what happened at the girls' brunch when they was all talking about her, because she feels like, that it was some type of ambush. And so Marlo asked, well, did this come from Kenya? Kenya said, yeah, it came from me, and I reported the facts accurately. So Kenya then lets Marlo know that Candy ain't effing with her no more. And I was like, now, I don't think Candy has said that yet, okay? I felt like Kenya put a little bit of stank on it, but I do feel like she was speaking from a place of, I don't really feel like Candy fooling with you no more. But anyway, Marlo goes on to say, well, oh my God, what am I going to do now that Candy's not messing with me no more? And so Kenya says it made her realize all the things that you haven't been doing for her in the friendship. So Marlo feels like Kenya is just trying to break her down or whatever like that. And Marlo says, can you teach me how to be a good friend, Kenya? And then can you tell us about Mark, Kenya, and your fake booty? And Kenya's like, that's the Marlo we all know. Now, see, later on, Marlo's going to say something about how she can argue with people and not talk about their husbands, their families, or their children. Now, the camera and the production is going to show us every time that Marlo talked about either Kenya's mama, made reference to the child, or birthing or pregnancy, and then talked about the husband or whatever like that. And so I feel like in this situation, MARLO, to me, got a little lazy. Because here's the thing. Going for Mark is, I feel like, something she's already done or she could easily do. And the fake booty, I feel like, is a played out read. I love MARLO, and I think that MARLO is funny, but I feel like that was lazy. If you're going to come at Kenya, come at her with something new. Bring something new to the table. Give us a new insult, something else. I just feel like it was kind of like a low reach, and she didn't even need to go there in terms of going for the Mark situation because it really didn't make any sense. So they go back and forth about, MARLO telling Kenya to try to keep a man, and Kenya asking her, "Where's your man?" And MARLO says, "I don't want one." And you settle for one that belittled you. And Kenya says, "Yes, I did. And I have a beautiful child from that. What do you have?" And then as MARLO is yelling at Kenya and rolling up on her about Mark, Kenya puts her hands up in her face and get to telling her to get up out of her face or whatever. And the ish is really hitting the fan. And they have to actually end up pulling Kenya away as she's calling MARLO a pitiful hoe and daring her to roll up on her again. Okay. And MARLO is about to go running up after her, but Sheree and Sonya pull her back. Now, Kenya goes outside with Monyetta and Drew, letting them know that she is not that girl no more. She's not that girl no more. And MARLO in her confessional says that Kenya keeps coming for her. So Kenya finally just gets in her car and she takes off with Sheree. She buys Sheree Matt. MARLO tells Monyetta that that's when she tells her she can argue without saying anything about your family or your children. But again, the flashbacks show otherwise. Again, these editors are the MVP of this episode, okay? Of the season so far, because they are not letting up on nobody, okay? I don't care what you bring into the show. Meanwhile, over at Candy's place, the police is there, okay? And that's when we find out about the man climbing the fence being allegedly Beyonce's relative. That's what he claiming or something like that. I don't know. Back at Drew's, at the drop-in with Drew, Sonya hasn't had enough bad advice for one day. So now she want to talk to Drew. She apologizes for coming at Drew all types of crazy. And, Sonya mentions that she wants, Ross and Ralph to be okay. Drew asks about Ross, and then Sonya begins to tell her what they're going through about her not wanting to have a baby. And Drew says, "Well, girl, you have to do what you need to do for your husband." And Sonya's looking at her like, "Girl, what in the 1940s are you talking about?" And so Drew says, "Well, she did it. Basically, she did it for Ralph, and because she didn't want Ralph to resent her." And I'm like, "Girl, I feel like he already does resent you. Based on the way he treats you. I don't think that having kids stop that. Okay, but that's not my business." But here's the thing. I don't understand why Sonya is even talking to Drew about any type of marital issues. Now, this is no disrespect to you, Drew, because I like Drew. I think that Drew, for the most part, is harmless, and I think she is a fun girl. I think she's very supportive of the rest of the ladies, and she tends to just stick her foot in her mouth and and step in the mud every once in a while and get herself into trouble. But I feel like Drew is just, she's not a bad apple. But I don't think that I will be taking any marital advice on her. I might take some advice on, girl, how do I break into the acting industry or something like that? But marital advice, probably not. Not from what we done seen. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Meanwhile, Sheree and MARLO head off to get some barbecue after all the shenanigans that they done just caused. Okay? Now, that was the episode. I loved it. Everybody fired on all cylinders in this episode. Everybody gave their all. I don't know if production sat them down and had a talk with them and said, y'all better give us more, but the ladies gave us more. And I liked it. We got emotion. We got arguments. We got misunderstandings. We got all types of crazy stuff happening. And we got a new We finally get to see Monyetta on the show. And next episode, we'll get more of Sheree's friend, Fatum. However, I want you guys to know that apparently next week there is no new episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta because we'll be heading into the 4th of July holiday weekend. So no Atlanta next week. Atlanta will resume allegedly on July the 10th, the same day that Married to Medicine new season begins. Okay. So now, if you haven't watched Candy speak on it, head on over to Candy's page, watch that, and you guys will be able to get a bit more intel on some of the aspects from her perspective on last night's episode. Okay. So anyway, with that being said, listen, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for just participating and having a good old time with us as we recap these episodes. And remember, y'all, like, we can talk about these episodes. We can have fun with it. Try not to take things too seriously and get upset and be fighting with people and stuff like that about it, because it's not worth it. It's all entertainment. So anyway, with that being said, y'all know I love y'all, and I'm going to catch y'all in the next video.